the real deal.
What's up, guys? Welcome to The Real Deal Airsoft. My name is Jake, one of your favorite YouTube airsoft technicians, and we just released a new part. It's the Real Deal Airsoft high-speed sector delayer chip, set out to solve full auto inconsistencies. We're not going to be able to see anything from this distance, so let's take a closer look. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future airsoft updates or really cool product drops. Little disclaimer for YouTube. In this video, there are no firearms. There are no regulated goods. Everything featured in this video is airsoft and gel blaster alike, which are legal toys that are used in fields across the world, clapping cheeks in a field near you. Let's get right into it. Let's take a closer look at the Real Deal Airsoft high-speed sector delayer chip, designed to solve full auto feeding issues in high rate of fire single sector gear gearboxes, as well as full auto feeding problems when using heavyweight BBs. This chip was designed to not affect the tappet plate timing on the pickup side and only extend the duration of the feeding window by holding it open just a little bit longer. And let's take a look at the sector gear and see the traditional relationship between the sector gear and the tappet plate. Then we'll install the Real Deal Airsoft high-speed sector delayer chip, and we'll be able to see exactly how it solves the full auto feeding issues. This portion on your sector gear is called your cam, and the cam is what pulls your tappet plate back. As the sector gear cycles, the cam is going to engage the tappet plate, pulling it backwards. As the sector gear cycles, it's also going to pick up the piston. With the gearbox open, it's probably going to get jumbled up, so I'm going to move it manually. At this point in time, the cam is still holding the tappet plate in the rearward position, and I would classify this as the feeding window is still open, which means that the nozzle is in the most rear position, and this allows time and space for the BB to leave your mag and seat in front of the nozzle to prepare for cheek clapping potential. Let's continue the cycle of the sector gear. As the cam approaches this position, it's no longer engaging with your tappet plate, and your tappet plate return spring will shoot it forward. As this comes forward, your feeding window is now closed. Your nozzle came fully forward, and the BB should be seated in the bucking. Your piston still has to be cycled, and as the cycle completes, eventually the sector gear will release that piston, compression happens, and someone should call their hits. So now let's install the Real Deal Airsoft high-speed sector delayer chip, and let's see the difference in the duration of time for that feeding window. And as you can see over here, there's no extra material in front of the cam, which means that your cam is going to engage and pick up your tappet plate in the same time that it did without the delayer chip. So that means the tappet plate timing of the pickup is exactly the same and unchanged. That's an important detail. Before we show the interaction of the Real Deal Airsoft delayer chip and the tappet plate, I want to show you first a comparison of a standard delayer chip. And on this delayer chip, I actually marked off a little piece of material here. I scratched it just to show the difference. So on a traditional delayer chip, you have a lot of material before the cam and after it. Material before the cam will prematurely pick up your tappet plate, and also depending on which tappet plate you're using, it may overextend it to the left, potentially causing a failure in the tappet plate by overextension. As the sector gear cycles, it picks up the tappet plate as per usual, and there's no difference here. Sector gear picks up the piston, and we're rocking. At this part in the cycle, everything's the same because the cam is where the cam normally would be. As we approach this part in the cycle, we can see the magic happening. So if you take a quick look, the cam is not touching the tappet plate fin. There's a space here because traditionally speaking, the window would be closing. The feeding window would be closing at this point in time, but this delayer chip is holding it open.
What did he say?
As we continue the cycle, the delayer chip is still engaging the tappet plate fin, and the feeding window, like I said before, it has been extended and is open for longer.
Hey, where you get that? I'm gonna need that device.
As we continue the cycle, it's still engaging, it's starting to close, but it's still engaging the tappet plate. So as you can see, without this delayer chip, the tappet plate would be right around here, closing the feeding window.
Bro.
So essentially the feeding window has been held open by this rear portion, extending the time that you have for the BB to seat properly in front of the nozzle. And this is the solution to all of your full auto feeding issues, especially with heavy BBs, .32s and up. These BBs are heavier and they're more sluggish within the magazine and they don't move as quickly. So this extra time for sure will benefit your full auto feeding. We've noticed benefits in simple builds such as 13:1 ratio builds with Golden Boy motors, as well as brushless builds on low ratio. This is made for a single sector gear setup because your full auto feeding and the feeding window can be affected by the length of your tappet plate for a DSG, the weight of your nozzle, and the tension of your spring. So this chip is mainly for single sector gear builds. As you can see, our delayer chip acts normal on the pickup end and doesn't change that timing, but as it comes to its full revolution of its cycle, it holds the tappet plate open for just that much longer, extending your feeding window, allowing for ultimate cheek clapping abilities.
Bro.
So if you're suffering from a full auto feeding issue or you want to just prevent one in general, this chip is such an affordable and great part, which makes such a big difference. I highly recommend it. As you start approaching the 30 RPS and higher mark, that's when you're going to start to see these issues occurring. So it's just a cool little tech tip and a cool little part that will 100% resolve your issues. To check out the coolest pre-builds, performance parts, and everything for your airsoft needs, head over to our website, link pinned in the comments and description below. See you guys in the field.
The real deal.